Great day, beautiful people. I am Elisa Charisse, and welcome to my podcast where we'll be discussing the promises and limits of AI in instructional design. I am a doctoral student in the School of Education focusing on instructional design. And my job today is to discuss the pros and cons of the use of AI in instructional design. If you've been paying attention to education lately, you've probably noticed that AI is everywhere. And in instructional design, it's starting to feel less like a future idea and more like a present day tool. But the big question is not just whether AI can help, it's how far we should let it go before we lose the human judgment that makes good teaching and design work in the first place. That tension is what makes this topic so interesting for my developing dissertation work. My focus is on Arizona schooling parents using AI to create standards aligned rubrics and assessments. And of course, this topic cannot bypass AI use. But the bigger issue is even broader than that. Across the 5 articles I reviewed, one pattern kept showing up. AI can support instructional design in real and useful ways, but it also brings real questions about context, oversight, fit, and the limits of automation. One of the clearest strengths of AI is speed. Karadas and colleagues show that educators using AI for curriculum adaptation were able to leave out unnecessary content, add personalized material, and revise lessons so that they fit student needs better. And honestly, that is a big deal. Instructional design often means making all those little decisions about what stays, what goes, and what needs to change. AI can make that process faster. But, and this is important, AI is helping with the adaptation, not replacing the designer. The human still decides what matters, what's relevant, and what's actually supports learning. That's the real value here. And this is important in the context of homeschooling parents. Much of our research in the literature is already talking about teachers' use of AI, as well as homeschooling parents using AI. But what's missing is seeing these very same population of parents as the instructional designers that they are. And their use of AI is important to create their curriculum and instructional design. AI can speed things up for them, but in either environment, it does not automatically know the learner, the goal, or the context. That same idea shows up in the rubric article by Fernandez and Sanchez and et al., which is especially relevant to my topic because it focuses on assessment design. Their study shows that AI can help create rubrics with better precision, better efficiency, and stronger alignment if the user gives detailed input and still reviews the results carefully. So, again, AI is useful, but it is not magically intelligent on its own. It works better when the designer already knows what the assignment should measure and what the standards it should reflect are. And that leads to the homeschooling context, which is where things get even more interesting. Aldib and et al. Show that homeschooling is not one single model. It changes depending on families' needs, state rules, and learner differences. So, an AI tool might work well in one home and not in another. That matters because homeschooling is already highly personal and highly variable. It is not a one size fits all environment. Zhang and Guo add another important layer. Parents are not passive users of AI learning tools. They regulate how these tools are used based on fit, burden, and whether the tool actually feels worth the effort. That makes a lot of sense in homeschooling, where parents are already making daily decisions about curriculum, pacing, and assessment. In that setting, AI is not just available, air quotes. It has to be useful, manageable, and worth the parent's time. That can be a pro or a con. Now, here's the caution side of the conversation. Parsons and Curry asked whether ChatGPT can pass graduate level instructional design assignments. And that question gets at something really important. Can AI actually think like a designer? Or does it just produce something that looks like a designer made it? That's surfacial because those are not the same thing. And for homeschooling parents, this can be the difference between the success of learning outcomes of their learners or not. That matters a lot in instructional design. A tool can generate something polished, but polish is not the same as good design. And this is an important context in terms of AI use in instructional design. Good design means reasoning through objectives, evidence, sequence, learner needs, and context. Parsons and Carey are useful here because they remind us that AI may imitate design thinking without truly doing it. So when you put all 5 of these articles together, a pattern starts to emerge. Karadas et al. Show all AI can help adapt curriculum. However, it does not always do so if not framed properly. Fernandez Sanchez et al. Show it can support rubric development. Aldib et al. Shows homeschooling is context dependent. Zhang and Guo show parents actively regulate AI use. And Parsons and Curry show that AI still has real limits when it comes to actual instructional design reasoning. So, what does that mean overall? It means AI is promising, definitely. The strongest instructional design still depends on human judgment. And in my context, the homeschooling parent. AI can help with drafting, adapting, and organizing. But the human designer still has to make the final calls about what works, what fits, and what makes sense in context. And that is exactly why my dissertation topic matters. Arizona homeschooling parents are already instructional decision makers. The question is, what happens when they use AI to create rubrics and assessments without a clear framework guiding that process? These 5 studies together show why that question is worth asking and why the answer is not going to be a simple yes or no. So the real takeaway is this: AI is useful in instructional design when it supports judgment. It becomes risky when it starts replacing judgment. And in a setting as personal and context driven as homeschooling, that distinction matters a lot. Thanks so much for joining me. Again, I'm Elisa Charisse, and I appreciate you exploring the pros and cons of AI use in instructional design.